Okay, now suppose we backtrack and we go back to reason. So far we've been focusing more on the epistemological implications of taking reason seriously toward the study of the natural world, including the study of the human being as a natural world. What happens if we take an epistemological emphasis on reason and apply it to ethical issues and value issues and political issues as well? Well, one of the things that starts to happen significantly as this emphasis, this new emphasis on reason emerges is, in the early modern world, an emphasis on individualism. The notion here in the pre-modern world, to the extent that we are expected to act on faith, this notion that we are dependent, all of that was part and parcel of the feudal world's class system, that you are dependent upon the larger community, you are dependent upon God, you are dependent upon knowing your place and doing what you are told, and you are expected to act on faith and just accept your lot in life. To the extent, however, we emphasize reason, well, every individual, right, has his or her own rational capacity, and if that is a legitimate capacity, if it's a competent capacity, then what we should see is a rising respect for and emphasis on respecting the individual's own rational judgment as the source of decisions about what should go on in people's lives. And so what we do start to find then as a result of this is an increasing emphasis on liberalism in various aspects of human life. For example, religious liberalism, the idea that rather than my being expected to simply accept a certain religious tradition because I happen to be born into it, rather than my being expected to accept other people's say-so about what is true on religious grounds, what we find is a rising emphasis that I should be free on religious matters to think for myself about what's true, to come up with my own interpretation of what is true, and if I disagree with other people, to be free to go my own way on religious matters, to start my own church, to worship in my own particular way. If it's a matter of individuals and rational individuals applied to my own to my political life, right? The idea of what I should be able to do should not simply be a matter of my being born into a certain station in life and other people having political authority to tell me what I should be doing. Rather, if there are political institutions that are having an effect on my life, I should be free to participate in those political institutions and to have some say in how those political institutions are shaped in various ways. So the development of reason, right, in the 1600s, by the time we get to the 1700s, individualism is being taken seriously, and so it's not, I don't think, accidental, but by the time we get seriously into the 1700s, we have a number of political revolutions. So we think by the time we get to the latter part of the 1700s, there's the liberal revolution in the United States, or the bringing into existence of the United States, a kind of democratic republicanism that it involves a revolution against the remnants of a feudal system across the ocean in England under King George. And of course, the American revolutionaries are arguing that we should not be having a feudal monarchical system. We should have a kind of liberal system, a democratic republic, and Americans should not be second-class citizens relative to the English. And so forth. And a few years later in France, again, another revolution in the name of the principles of equality and liberty against the traditional hierarchical system, against the French feudal system with King Louis and Marie Antoinette, and a very powerful still Catholic church. And so we get, in that case, a much bloodier revolution that ultimately was not too successful, but at least in principle, we are getting rid of the older feudal system and reinstituting a modern system based on principles of liberty and equality. So as a result of that, what we should find in the modern world is that individuals have an increasing amount of freedom, and as it then is played out in the 1800s, we find that the new equality and the new liberties that are first extended to males, There are then the development of anti-slavery societies in the late 1700s, and then by the time we get into the 1800s, slavery is gradually eliminated from England, from France, from America, and their possessions right around the world. By the time we get to the late 1700s, we see women also arguing that the same principles that apply to men should obviously apply to women. Women are also rational individuals who can think for themselves and so should have some political say. And so we find various kinds of early feminist movements taking off in the 1800s, arguing for the same freedoms. Women should be able to own property in their own name, eventually to vote, to go to school, to choose their careers, to choose their marital partners, as opposed to simply being part of a collective family and the hierarchy in the family, that is to say primarily the father makes the decision about whom they marry and so forth. So increasing amounts of freedom as the 18th century ends and on into the 19th century.